The Macintosh Performa 575. This name rings a bell, eh? No? I didn't think so. This Apple computer, released in 1994 and discontinued in 1996, isn't the most memorable Macintosh, despite its glaringly obvious resemblance to one of the most rare Macintosh computers to ever exist. Any ideas? It's the Macintosh TV. I wish I could show you one of mine, but I'm a little low on stock considering how hard it is to come by. But that's for another time. Back to the 575. This powerhouse runs a processor clocked at 32 MHz, with a measly 5 MB of RAM on Apple's System 7.1 operating system, upgradable to System 8.1, which is good enough to play a few rounds of Mario Teaches Typing smoothly. Along the front, there are adjustment buttons for brightness and volume, as well as some built-in speakers and a 3.5mm headphone jack. It has a built-in 14-inch 640 by 480 pixel color screen. Not the sharpest resolution, but it's not like you were watching 4K videos on YouTube in 1994. Along the back panel, there are several ports for things such as the keyboard and mouse, printers, modems, speakers, microphones, etc. This computer was really aimed toward the entry-level market for consumers buying their first home computer, so Apple tried to keep it as simple as possible. The company succeeded in many ways, but also failed pretty miserably in others. One of the ways in which it succeeded was the operating system. Macintosh was known for its easy-to-use interface. Microsoft's equivalent of the time was Windows 3.1, which, while appearing to look the same, was a bit more confusing to learn, especially for new users buying their very first home computer. But, as I mentioned, there are some not as simple as they should be factors in this computer as well. Things that will make you ask, what were they thinking? The first and worst, in my opinion, is powering on the machine. Sounds simple, right? Just plug the power cord into the computer and the wall socket, then flip the power switch on the back and boom. Nothing. This confused even me when I bought the computer, being that I hadn't done too much research on it at the time. Luckily, I had the user manual, which points out that you have to flip the power switch, then press this deformed arrow shape called the power key. Sounds like an overcomplication of things. Why not just turn on when you flip the switch? Not to mention the fact that you were forced to use Apple's keyboard with this computer if you planned on starting it up. Well, this was actually put into place so that you could perform a safe shutdown by selecting the shutdown option within the Apple menu on the OS. But I still didn't understand why they didn't just put a power button on the back instead of the switch. The other isn't really as big of a problem for me, or most people that are familiar with Macintosh computers of the time, and that is the fact that the mouse was actually daisy-chained through the keyboard instead of directly plugged into the computer. This is also stated in the manual, however, I could understand how confusing this could have been to new users, as this isn't clearly marked on the computer or the keyboard. One issue in particular that happens to just about everyone that has ever owned this computer is the fact that the clamps holding the back cover to the computer break. I was actually surprised when I bought this computer that the clamps were intact, but during transport they sadly snapped. So, I have you convinced. You're ready to head to the nearest multicolored Apple computer store to pick up your very own, huh? Well, get ready for some math. In 1994, you could pick one up for the low price of just $1,700, which calculated inflation of around 2.38% per year over a 20-year time span, or about 60.21% as of 2014. $1,700 in 1994 would equate to a whopping $2,723.57 in 2014. Maybe you should just hold off for the mythical iMac, rumored to be released in 1998.